Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name is Pete and this is a 5-minute Bags of Action review of The Karate Kid from 1984. Now, having loved the Cobra Kai TV series that followed on from the movies, I thought I'd go back and rewatch this film in readiness for Cobra Kai coming to Netflix. Now, I've seen all 4 Karate Kid movies, so that includes the later Hilary Swank starring one, and I've also seen the 2010 remake, which everyone knows should have been called The Kung Fu Kid, a number of times too. So, revisiting this, I'd imagine you know the premise, but in case you don't, this is what The Karate Kid is all about. A boy and his mother move to California for a new job. He struggles to fit in as a group of karate students start to bully him for dating a rich girl from their clique. It's up to the Japanese landlord, Miyagi, to teach him karate. It's actually not from Japan, he's from Okinawa, but never mind. So this movie is directed by John G. Avildsen. Now, he did the first 3 Karate Kid movies, but he's most famously known for Rocky. He returned to the franchise for Rocky V and did another boxing movie that I've seen called The Power of One as well, starring, I think it was Stephen Dorff. It was written by Robert Mark Kamen. Now, I didn't realise quite how many things he's written, and particularly things that we've covered on the show. So, Robert Mark Kamen has written Angel Has Fallen, Columbiana, Taken, The Transporter, The Kiss of the Dragon, The Fifth Element, Lethal Weapon 3, and another boxing movie, Gladiator. So, this was earlier in their careers, but quite a pedigree from both those people. The film stars Ralph Macchio, of course, as Daniel, Pat Morita as Mr. Miyagi, which earned him a well-deserved Best Supporting Actor Oscar nomination for this movie. Elisabeth Shue is Ali, Martin Kove is Kreese, who's the Cobra Kai instructor. Recently saw him in VFW. William Zabka is Johnny, and Randy Heller is Daniel's mother, Lucille. And then it's rounded out by a supporting cast, mainly of the high school kids that are friends or enemies of the main cast. So in many ways, The Karate Kid was an attempt to recapture the magic of Rocky, but for a younger audience. And it shares some of the same themes as that film. Not just because it has the same director, but much like many kind of boxing films or martial arts movies and tournament movies, it's about somebody who's the underdog and how they train to basically do a final fight. Now, watching this film now is very different than seeing it back in the day. Things like wax on, wax off have become staple parts of pop culture. And following lots of online discussion and the new TV show, you do start to reassess Daniel a bit more. Yes, in the story, he is the hero, but there are ways you can kind of reassess maybe how things work in the movie. Some of the acting from the supporting cast in this film isn't great, and at times it does feel a little bit like you're watching something like Grease or High School Musical. But the real heart of the film is the relationship between Daniel-san and Mr. Miyagi, far more than between Daniel and Johnny's ex-girlfriend Ali, with an I, although Daniel and Ali's relationship is kind of the impetus for the reason he falls out with the karate guys. But it's the relationship between him and Mr. Miyagi which this builds on, and of course then other films continue with. Now, I'm a sucker for tournament movies, things like Bloodsport and Best of the Best, but I also love a good bit of melodrama, so this film delivers in both of those areas. There's also good training montages and relationships, a bit like in films like Kickboxer. Now, I saw this film originally later than most. In my head, I was already watching the Van Damme movies and things like that, and the Eastern martial arts films, and I thought this would be a kiddie-friendly kind of watered-down version. I think I may have even seen No Retreat, No Surrender before I saw The Karate Kid. As a teenager, I just thought it wasn't for me. But I actually like this film more with time, and watching it now, I probably appreciate it more. Yes, the story is pretty straightforward, but it's very well done. You're rooting for Daniel, but by the end, you're almost cheering for him in order to honour Mr. Miyagi even more, which is one of the film's key strengths, and his backstory is heartbreaking. The tournament takes up much less of the movie than I remembered, though, but it is really well handled and very much focused on Daniel. And as well, there's some great fights, there's strong character stuff revolving around the differences between Miyagi's approach and Kreese's strike first, strike hard, no mercy approach. Again, something that gets revisited in the Cobra Kai series. Now, I really enjoyed watching this movie again. Despite knowing the plot inside out from previous viewings and the remake, there was still a lot to enjoy, and thinking about the characters and what they do and say in connection to the excellent TV series that's followed is a really interesting exercise too, with such a familiar old movie. Especially as so much of that show builds around Daniel and Johnny's memories of the time, but like most things, the reality is somewhere between how the two men remember it. It isn't as black and white as they both might present it to themselves now. The Karate Kid is sweet-natured and earnest, with a simple but well-executed story and some great mentoring moments and a well-handled tournament at the end. I love this kind of movie, and this one is pretty quintessential. It kickstarted a film franchise and arguably the best TV series of recent years. It's a classic in so many ways. Despite some of the supporting cast, everyone should see this movie at some point and just enjoy it the same way as you did something like Rocky. With all that considered, and with its place in pop culture firmly cemented, I'm going to give The Karate Kid 5 bags of action out of 5. Have you seen The Karate Kid? Do you agree with my assessment of it? Feel free to comment below or get in touch with us via email, Facebook, or over on Twitter. We have new episodes coming out weekly alongside our full-length podcast with my co-host. Don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications. Bags of Action will always be free, but if you'd like to buy us a coffee, you can do that at our Ko-fi page. I never know how to say it. And hit the subscribe and listen out for the next step.